Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we sift through stacks of research, articles, books, you name it, and pull out the absolute gems for you. Today, we're getting into a really powerful book. It was written way back in 1963, but honestly, it feels incredibly relevant right now. It's Dr. Joseph Murphy's The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. Our mission today, to really dig into the core insights from a deep look at this book. We want to understand its main message, bust some myths that might still be floating around, and figure out why it feels so, well, urgent in today's world, especially with AI and everything moving so fast.
It really is an amazing piece of work. Murphy kind of walks this fine line, doesn't he, between science, spirituality, and just sheer self-belief, and the writing style. It's got this sort of preacher's energy, but also this like dreamer's optimism, really invites you to think differently about your own mind.
Okay, let's unpack that. If you boil it all down, what was the absolute central thing Dr. Murphy wanted to get across? What's the core thesis?
It's actually surprisingly simple, but incredibly profound. Basically, change your thoughts and you change your destiny.
Yeah.
He didn't see the subconscious mind as some, locked vault full of mysteries. It was more like a garden, a fertile garden. And that garden idea is key because whatever you plant in there, whatever you focus on, water with feeling and truly believe, that's what's going to grow, period. And the way he mixed psychology with spiritual ideas, Christianity, Hinduism, the psychology of his day, that was pretty radical for 1963. Honestly, it still feels a bit rebellious today, challenging that idea that we're just stuck with our circumstances.
Yeah, it sounds like more than just mixing ideas. He was really pushing back against some deep-seated beliefs by weaving together such, well, different threads. What actually shaped his thinking? How did he arrive at something so radical for his time?
That's a great point. His background was incredibly varied, what I think is why the book is so rich. He actually started out studying to be a Jesuit priest, deeply rooted in Roman Catholicism. So he had the strong foundation in faith, ritual, but then he shifted towards the New Thought movement. And that was a huge change because New Thought really emphasizes that divine power isn't just out there, it's within you, and that your thoughts have, like, creative force. Plus, he dove really deep into Eastern spirituality, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, even mystic Christianity. He saw them all pointing to these universal truths about the mind. He also knew about Freud and Jung, read their work, but he always seemed to go beyond them, focusing on the practical side. How do you actually use this stuff? He was definitely influenced by things like the placebo effect research, how belief alone could change the body, and Emile Coué's ideas about autosuggestion, every day in every way. Perfect kind of spiritualized all that. But maybe the biggest influence was just watching people. As a minister, he saw firsthand how people's beliefs affected their health, their finances, their whole lives. The book's packed with those stories, those case studies. And, importantly, he felt his own life, his own healing, was proof that these methods worked. He wasn't just teaching it. He felt he was living it.
That's quite a journey. Seeing how all those different streams, religion, Eastern thought, psychology, real-life observation, flowed into this one core idea. Okay, so with all that background, what was the fundamental problem, the big human question he was really trying to answer with this book? What was driving him?
The core question, I think, was something like this. Why do some people just seem to glide through life, healthy, successful, happy, while others who seem just as good or hardworking are just stuck in suffering, fear, lack? But simply, we all have minds, right? So why aren't we all thriving? He wasn't trying to solve it with, complex theories. He used stories, scripture, and this idea of reprogramming your subconscious. He wanted to make transformation possible for everyone, not through grinding harder, but through this inner shift in belief. He saw this huge gap between what we say we want and what our subconscious truly believes we deserve. His book was basically his attempt to build a bridge over that gap.
That's a massive goal. It definitely sounds like he was aiming to shake things up. So what were some of those really revolutionary ideas he put forward, the ones that still challenge us today?
Yeah, despite the calm tone, he was definitely a bit of a philosophical fire starter. He very gently but firmly took down some myths that still trap a lot of us. Like, take the idea that your circumstances control your destiny, just flat out accepted by so many. Murphy's answer, nope. You are not a victim of fate, you're the author of belief. He insisted your subconscious beliefs create your experience. Change the beliefs, change the life. Simple as that, in his view. Or how about this one? You have to struggle and sacrifice to earn success. Murphy just cut through that. He said, you are here to live the life more abundant. He actually called poverty a kind of mental disease, not some noble state. He thought struggle usually came from subconscious blocks like guilt or feeling unworthy, not because it's inherently necessary. He'd probably ask, what belief is making this feel like a struggle?
Wow, poverty is a disease. That's a strong take. For a lot of people listening, that might feel like it ignores real economic hardship or systemic problems, right? How did he square that with, humility or the very real external challenges people face?
That's a really important question. And I think the nuance comes from his spiritual perspective. He wasn't saying, oh, external problems don't exist. Not at all. What he was saying is that your internal response to those problems, which is driven by your subconscious programming, is what ultimately shapes your experience of them and even your ability to overcome them. He believed that even if you're in a tough spot externally, changing your deep-seated beliefs about, say, abundance or your own worthiness, or feeling supported by the universe that could actually shift your reality. For him, humility wasn't about making yourself small. It was about being open. Open to inner guidance, open to possibilities you might have previously dismissed because of limiting beliefs. It's about changing the filter through which you see the world, not pretending the world isn't sometimes harsh. Another big myth he tackled, the idea that logic is king, or that willpower is the ultimate tool. Murphy flipped that completely. His truth was, imagination is more powerful than willpower. He taught that your subconscious doesn't really respond to logical arguments or just gritting your teeth. It responds to vivid emotional imagination. You have to feel it. It's about like dreaming your desired reality into existence, not wrestling it into submission.
That's definitely a challenge for many of us, isn't it? Especially if you're taught to just push through. I know I've felt that difference trying to force myself versus getting genuinely excited and visualizing something clearly. The willpower just runs out. Have you seen clear examples where imagination really did beat willpower?
Well, absolutely. It's classic. Think about someone trying to break a habit like smoking, purely with willpower. I will not smoke. They might fight it for a while, right? White-knuckling it. But often that deep craving, that subconscious pattern just pulls them back in. Now, contrast that with someone who uses Murphy's approach. They start vividly imagining themselves as a non-smoker. They feel the freedom, the healthier lungs, the pride. They see themselves easily declining a cigarette, feeling good about it. They dwell in that imagined reality. The subconscious, which Murphy says doesn't really know the difference between vividly imagined and real, starts to accept this new identity. It begins to shift urges, preferences, actions to align with non-smoker. It's less about fighting the old pattern and more about embodying the new one until it becomes dominant. The imagination provides the blueprint and the emotional fuel. He also went after the idea that forgiveness is mainly for the other person. Murphy reframed it completely. He said, forgiveness is not forgetting. It is letting go of resentment for your own peace. He saw it as essential mental hygiene, a detox, really. Holding on to resentment for him was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. He argued it literally blocks good things from flowing to you, blocks abundance, peace, even health. And one more huge one, the myth that you can't control your thoughts, that feeling of being overwhelmed by your own mind. Murphy's counter was empowering. You are not your thoughts. You are the thinker who can choose differently. He insisted you could absolutely train your mind. Like that gardening metaphor again, you choose what to cultivate.
Wow. Yeah, these points really put the responsibility back on us, don't they? For that constant inner chatter, that script running in our heads. It's a major shift. And it's truly striking how much his ideas seem to prefigure things we talk about all the time now. Like you mentioned cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, that's all about identifying and challenging negative thought patterns, and visualization, mindfulness. It sounds like he was onto these core principles decades earlier. Did he actually link his work to psychologists of his time? Or was it more like he just intuitively tapped into these truths?
That's a great insight. He was definitely more of an independent synthesizer, drawing from ancient wisdom, his own observations, the spiritual texts he studied, more than aligning himself neatly with one specific psychological camp. He certainly knew about Freud and Jung, as we said, but his approach was much more practical, more action-oriented. It was always about how you could consciously direct your subconscious to get results, which, you're right, has strong echoes in CBT's focus on changing thought patterns to change feelings and behaviors. So I'd say it was less about direct academic links and more that he grasped these fundamental psychological dynamics intuitively, perhaps through his spiritual lens, and seeing what worked for people in real life long before they became codified in therapies like CBT.
That makes total sense. Okay, so fast forward to today. Why does a book from 1963, pre-internet, pre-smartphones, definitely pre-AI, feel so incredibly relevant, maybe even more relevant now, with all the tech and pressures we face?
It really does feel like Murphy was writing a manual for navigating this exact moment, even though he couldn't have foreseen the specifics. His message is like a compass we desperately need right now. Think about his idea of a mental diet in our digital age. We're constantly bombarded, right? Clickbait, notifications, social media feeds curated by algorithms. Our subconscious is basically being fed or maybe hijacked 24/7. Murphy would probably look at our scrolling habits and say, hold on, each swipe, each click, each like, that's the seed you're planting. What are you watering all day long? It's not just passively consuming. He'd argue we're actively programming ourselves with every interaction, often unconsciously. Or those interactions building us up or subtly tearing us down based on external metrics. And then there's this modern tendency to look outside for validation, for peace. We chase the likes, the followers, the productivity hacks, the next big thing, but often end up feeling, well, kind of empty. Murphy's core advice was always go within or go without. He might say to us today, look, you've built these incredible external structures, this amazing digital world. Great. Now you need to go back inside and light the candle within. True peace, true power, he believed, comes from that internal alignment, not from external approval. We keep trying to fill ourselves up from the outside, and Murphy's just gently pointing back inward, saying the source is already there. And now with AI and automation, wow, things like knowledge, skills, even creative output are starting to be outsourced to machines. Murphy's work forces us to ask a really deep question. Okay, if AI can know things, or write things, or create images, then who am I? What is uniquely human? And I think his answer would be clear. Your real power was never just in the information you held. It was in your consciousness, your imagination, your ability to feel and believe. He challenged us to use these new tools, like AI, not just for efficiency, but maybe to help us cultivate inner stillness. Or even, imagine this, using AI to create personalized affirmations or visualizations, using tech to deepen our connection with our subconscious. And finally, just think about our culture's relationship with negative self-talk. We're often so ironic, so self-deprecating. Murphy was way ahead on this. He basically said your subconscious is like a very literal servant. It doesn't get sarcasm. So when you jokingly say, I'm so bad at this, or I'll never figure this out, even if you don't consciously mean it literally, he argued the subconscious just hears the core message. Bad at this, never figure out, and it takes you at your word. He was adamant, never finish a negative statement, reverse it immediately. Because words, for him, weren't just sounds. They were programming instructions. They're like spells, really. We need to speak like we're creating the reality we want, not just critiquing the one we have.
That is incredible foresight. It really feels like he anticipated so many of our modern mental and emotional challenges over 60 years ago. In this world where we're constantly pulled outward, where our attention is so fragmented, his call to go inward, to cultivate belief, to be intentional, it feels almost revolutionary today.
Absolutely. He's not offering a quick fix, but it's like a quiet, powerful rebellion against the noise. Remember his line, don't fight the outer storm, calm the inner sea. That's a profound invitation to find our power within.
Such a great image to hold on to. Okay, so let's try to crystallize this. If we had to pull out the absolute top, say, 5 core principles from Murphy's work, the things he'd really want every single one of us listening to grasp and maybe start living by, what would those be? What are the real heartbeat truths of this book?
Okay, the 5 big ones, the heartbeat truths. Here's how I see them, based on his work. Number 1, you are the gatekeeper of your inner world. This is crucial. Murphy stated it clearly. Your subconscious mind does not argue with you. It accepts what your conscious mind believes. Whatever you consistently think about, focus on, feel strongly about, that gets imprinted. So you have to be really, really mindful of the seeds you're allowing into that inner garden. Number 2, feeling is the secret. This is huge in Murphy's work. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you feel to be true. Just repeating affirmations like a robot, powerless according to him. You have to feel the reality of it. If the affirmation, the visualization doesn't stir something in your heart, some genuine emotion, it's probably not reaching the subconscious deeply enough to make a difference. You have to embody the feeling of the wish already fulfilled. Number 3, your subconscious is always on, especially before sleep. This is his famous sleep technique. He urged, never go to sleep with a negative thought in your mind. Why? Because those moments right before you drift off, it may be just as you wake up, or when the conscious mind is quieter and the subconscious is most receptive to suggestion, he believed your day, in a way, really begins the night before, with the thoughts you impress upon your mind as you fall asleep. Number 4, mental reprogramming is possible and powerful. This is the core promise, really. Change your thoughts, and you change your destiny. Murphy truly believed that almost everything, health, finances, relationships, peace of mind, is influenced by subconscious patterns. So the strategy isn't to just battle your current reality head-on, but to go deeper and rewire the underlying beliefs, the architect behind the scenes. And number 5, maybe the most profound, there's a divine intelligence within you. He said the infinite intelligence of your subconscious can guide, heal, and prosper you. Whether you call it God, the universe, source, infinite mind, whatever resonates. Murphy's deepest conviction was that this power isn't out there somewhere, separate from you. It's within you, accessible and responsive to your faith and your focused intention. You're always co-creating.
Those are incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, after digging into all of that, if you had to boil the entire book, Murphy's whole message, down to just one single unforgettable sentence, what would it be?
I think he'd say something like this, with absolute conviction. What you impress upon the subconscious with belief, repetition, and feeling becomes the blueprint for your reality.
Wow. That really captures it. So simple, yet so deep. The wisdom here feels timeless, but also incredibly practical for anyone listening and navigating, life today.
It truly is. And maybe a final thought for you, the listener, something to really chew on directly from Murphy's perspective would be this. Your mind is sacred ground. Be incredibly mindful of what you're praying for, because you're always praying, whether you realize it or not. Every dominant thought, every persistent feeling, every core belief, it's a form of prayer and instruction being sent out.
That's definitely a call to wake up to our own inner power and responsibility. So for someone listening right now feeling inspired or curious and wanting to actually start applying this, what's a good first step, something concrete?
Murphy wasn't about overwhelming people with huge lists. He'd probably ask you a simple, direct question first. Something like, what do you repeatedly say to yourself, especially when things get tough or when no one else is listening? What's that quiet default narrative running inside?
Yeah.
Just notice that first. Become aware of it without judgment. And then maybe he'd metaphorically hand you a pen and ask, okay, what if you decided to consciously rewrite just one part of that script? What would you choose to impress upon your mind instead? Perhaps start small. Just observe your self-talk for a day. Then pick one positive idea or one affirmation that feels good and really focus on feeling it just before you go to sleep tonight.
It feels manageable, but also potentially life-changing. Asking, what if you rewrote that, is a powerful starting point. We definitely encourage you, our listener, to maybe start your own deep dive into your subconscious mind. As you said, it might be the most important exploration you undertake.